Welcome to the Comics Aficionados, everybody. Your go-to source for all the best comic book news, discussions, debates every Saturday morning. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We were supposed to be debating the comic book creators who defined eras. We were going to talk about the golden era, this golden age, silver age, bronze age, modern age, dark age, and all that stuff. It was going to be a great panel. That's why I got Breen here, I got Yule here. But I know what's happening here. We got all this DC stuff happening. I remember I told Yule, I said the only way we're not doing this is if CB Cebulski gets fired this week. Otherwise, we're doing that, and it didn't quite get to that, but enough stuff is happening at DC that we're going to postpone the creators who define eras until next weekend, and we are going to discuss all this DC Comics noise that's going on, and it's a lot of noise, that's for certain.
Unless CB gets fired.
Is our wonderful panel. Oh, whoa. We got another person here.
First up,
from the Fatal J Show. What's up, buddy?
How are you beautiful guys doing this morning?
Well, we've got our super chat guy.
Well, there will be no super chats. I'm temporarily demonetized through no actions of my own. I didn't get in trouble, but
what happened?
Maybe I'll tell the story a little bit later. Also with us on the panel today is the curmudgeon of critical, Pele. How you doing?
What a beautiful day, man. It is so awesome out. It's just wonderful. I'm having such a great morning.
Perfect. That's what we want to hear. Also with us is Hugh Yule, the man behind the Wrestling Council.
Yeah. Totally behind the Wrestling Council.
You ready to shoot on these bitches?
That's right. I'm going to shoot.
Man.
Oh, yeah. DC, Jim Lee. It's all come. Actually, Fatal J, I saw your video on the DC thing, so you're perfect for this today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
All right. Also with this is the Breen himself, Eric Breen, with a beautiful HD camera. Normally, it kind of looks like you're in a bar, like a smoky bar, like maybe he's in the corner. It's got that vibe to it. But now I can see it looks like you're in a man cave, like you're ready to watch the game.
You're not married, are you?
What was your first clue?
I can't get away with that shit.
Also with us is the doc himself, the co-host, the man that's been here with me since day one. How you doing?
What up? I'm doing good, except for this stupid damn sinus headache this morning. Hey, Breen, yeah, I'm not married either, but my one roommate's a girl, and she got just as much shit in the living room as you do. Just as much nerd shit.
I gotta find me one of those,
dude. She has like twice the cabinet statues that I do in the living room.
Nice.
Well, there you go. So I will explain. Like I said, my channel is demonetized temporarily. Hopefully, it's not because I got in trouble or it wasn't because of my content. I'm in the Philippines, and in order to confirm your monetization, you have to get a PIN number that they send to you through the U.S. snail mail.
Yeah.
Now, getting stuff here is just hard enough as it is. If you send something that says AdSense, they're going to think there's a check or something in the mail, or even if it said YouTube, likely was ganked on the way here. Obviously, with COVID going on right now, I can't really request another PIN until I confirm that it wasn't going to make it. So I'm just kind of waiting on that. If anybody out there works for YouTube or knows somebody that has a contact in YouTube that can help me out, hit me on the low because I would definitely appreciate it.
Yes, this is what you do. Just have it sent to somebody in the States and then tell them to give them the PIN number to you.
That is a great idea, but for tax purposes, that would be terrible. So I think that's the reason that they have to confirm I am in the Philippines. I'm pretty sure it's because they don't want me to be like in a country and then claim I'm in another country with lower taxes, and they send it there, and then you know what I mean. They kind of take it. So I thought about doing that, but I decided I would. I'll play with their stupid little system. I think once they send the PIN 4 times that I don't receive it, that'll be okay. So we got a few months to go. Hopefully, I'll be able to work something out in the meantime.
Yeah, but that YouTube staff moved like molasses, man, because I was talking to them about some stuff on my channel, and they said, let me refer you to somebody. And guess who they referred me to? Me. They referred me.
Have you talked to Fatal J? He knows everything about the Fatal J show.
This is my channel. This is not somebody to work for YouTube. So it was crazy, man.
But it's nuts. It's like a technology company that's depending on the U.S. Postal Service to ensure that the creative talents are getting paid. So that is
wait till we get to
sad,
vote
sad
by
story.
mail.
So if there will be no super chats today, but if you think I'm doing a good job and you still want to support the channel, there is a link to my coffee page in the video description. Certainly, I would appreciate that. But if you just want to save the money and buy comic books, do that as well. All right, Yule, I'm going to you first. What are your feelings about all this DC stuff? We got cancellations, we got firings, we've got the creative staff under evaluation. Is it all
yeah. That's exactly what should be happening, I think. It was pretty crazy, I think, that they went ahead and just like fired everybody. It was like that initial letter that came out was like to all the people that worked for Warner Brothers. And, you know, it was like, all right, it looks like DC's kind of getting off lucky right now. And then like later on in the day, it was just like people getting laid off or fired, I mean, and it was like, wow, look, Bobbie Chase, Bob Harras, you know, important people. Andy Curry, I'm sure. I heard when his name came up, you know, the social media universe kind of cheered. It was pretty hilarious.
Now he can go and explore things that are more akin to his skill set, like being the assistant fry cook at a Wendy's.
That's right. Well, you know, it's funny that
go work somewhere else or at a website.
He was talking up that cover that came out, that Wonder Woman 1984 cover.
Frumpy Wonder Woman.
It was Frumpy Woman. Exactly.
Woman.
That cover. And he was like, oh, yeah, we really love the fact that you did this for us, Robin, or whoever that person is, and on all that. And then fired. He was totally sticking up for the company and their decisions, and he was just totally canned. It was pretty hilarious. I don't know. I think as far as the books that are canceled that we hear about, or the people that are let go, it makes sense. They make a lot of money. The books aren't doing that well. It's probably the way it should be.
Interesting enough, everyone's talking about how DC got gutted, but really, like almost all of DC Universe is gone. There were other parts of Warner Brother where like entire divisions were gone, or they lost over half their staff.
Heck yeah!
It only ended up being like it's only like 13 or 20 people. It's actually a pretty small number in comparison. But the outcry on social media, on the internet, you would have thought the entire thing was coming down.
But I'm like you though, man. Hey, it's supposed to be some great content come out now. Some great comments. Now you can focus on the good stuff. Trim the fat, like I need to do. I need to trim this fat. Trim the fat. And I'm telling you, this might be the greatest thing that happened to DC right here. This might be the greatest thing. I seen the article where they said they're going to keep the main titles, like the Batmans, the Supermans, but all the other Rudy Poo stuff that's not working, they're getting rid of it. Thank God. Thank God.
Rudy Poo candy ass bullshit.
Like The Rock, yeah.
Which the best part about all of this is this is exactly what many of us, you know, that have been hanging out talking comics on Twitter and YouTube for the last couple of years have been saying. And they needed to trim the fat down, gut the editorial department, really cut back the line back to its core, you know, its central tent poles, and then build itself back up from that point. And every single time we were told, well, that would be a step backwards. No, it's a step forward. Sometimes you got to take a step back in order to go forwards because you're running into a goddamn wall.
Yeah.
You got to take a step back before you can walk around the corner.
Get rid of those stupid books like Gotham High. Who want to read a Gotham High book about Bruce Wayne being in high school with the Joker? Get rid of that stupid stuff.
Yeah, but that's
not going anywhere.
No,
exactly.
that's like
but it can stay in its like little graphic novel shit over
over its
Scholastic,
Scholastic, whatever they want to do. Yeah, whatever they want to do for like Scholastic and like Barnes and Noble, fucking whatever, man. Who cares?
All right, so we do have a message from GMT Podcast. Not expecting great content with Bendis, Tamaki, King, and DeConnick still aboard, still mediocre. So that is interesting, and I'm going to have some more information on that in a video tomorrow. But I will say this. This might be music to your ears, Breen. They are doing a full evaluation of the creative talent, at least the ones that have exclusive contracts with DC, and they may or may not keep them still exclusive. So you might see somebody like a Bendis, a King, DeConnick. I believe those three are all exclusive. It's in some degree to DC Comics, and they might not be exclusive anymore. Who knows? But they are evaluating that, and we expect some of those people to be removed from that list and have to fight it out with the rest of the crew. So it looks like they might be. It might be being more competitive over at DC. If you don't come with the heat, maybe just don't get books anymore. Breen, you like that idea?
If it were accurate, yes. But I also know that Dan Abnett was on that list, and
that was ridiculous.
And if you have people come in that don't read the comics and don't really have know what's going on, they might just look and say, "Well, Abnett gets put on books that don't sell because the characters just can't catch on with the masses." They might look at his numbers and say, "Okay, why are we paying this guy?" They're going to look at Tom King, and they might not look any farther than what he used to be doing on Batman and say, "Okay, well, this guy has a track record of selling, so he's good." And they're going to look at Bendis and go, "Well, he's a huge name, and look at all this blah blah they did for him." I'm going to say, you're getting to the books that were canceled. I think the only reason why Young Justice was on that list was to give the illusion that even Bendis wasn't safe from the chopping block, because I don't think it's a requisite for him to have to sell books. If something changes, I'll be happy to admit I was wrong, but I just have a feeling that he is completely safe. I agree. Leaning that way towards King, and I think the only person that gets run out of that list is Abnett.
Well, it's funny. Abnett's not exclusive. He's writing for Valiant. He's writing for Dynamite right now. He was even writing for Marvel recently. I don't even know why they had him on that list in that Bleeding Cool article.
I think Young Justice going was a shot across the bow for Bendis. It was knock your crap off and start focusing on actually increasing sales.
Well, technically, Jim Lee did say in his interview with the Hollywood Reporter, he said the bottom 25% of Marvel Comics weren't breaking even or losing money. Young Justice was definitely in the bottom 25% as far as performing and selling. They're cutting the fed. Unfortunately, you lose a great book like Hawkman that isn't performing because it's got no marketing, it's got no push, not a lot of cachet value as far as the character goes, even though it's amazing, and it ends up getting kind of flushed out with the rest of them. But it's just unfortunate that's the way it goes. But yeah, Young Justice is out because it's not a performer. We're probably going to see a lot of the Sandman line period get dropped out along with the Hellblazer series, because those have never really been above like 15,000 issues.
And that's what I like about AT&T. They looking at everything and they saying, this not work, get rid of it. This work, keep it. People want Snyder Cut, let's do it. People don't want that, let's get rid of it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
They're kind of by doing all that, they're just like they're like checking out what's in their cupboards, and they're just like, all right, let's either throw it away or put it out there.
Yeah,
and I mean that's good,
shit.
But it's kind of like, all they care about. This is like just making money. There's nothing other than that. It's that's like, true. What is your worth to me? If you don't have any worth, you're out of here. And you better. And I mean, it looks like that might be the way for like Bendis and the other people also. But I don't know if that's necessarily like, I don't know, like you were talking sports and, people talk about analytics and things like that. Sometimes I just want a big guy to go up and hit a home run, You don't have to think about all these other statistics, and people don't like that. And when you come in and you're like the parent company and you're cutting things like that, there's no heart, there's no soul, there's no team chemistry. You know what I mean?
That's true, man. Because you got workers too. You have people that need jobs.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good on that one hand. As far as a business, we can take a look at it and go, oh, this looks like exactly the thing they're supposed to do. But, it's not really giving me a whole lot of hope for the future.
You don't have a lot of hope for the future, Yule? You think this Is this step one toward the eventual demise of DC Comics?
I don't know if I'm saying it's the eventual demise of DC Comics, but as far as like their philosophy, it's not something people want to join necessarily, you know.
But this is how I always been. Okay, ever since I was like 8, 9 years old, I used to walk into a comic shop and I always ask myself, why the freak is there so many Batman comics? Why the freak is there so many Superman comics? There's no way I can collect all these or buy all these. I think they're doing an excellent job by knocking down everything.
I think they're going to have just as many Batman comics, though.
Yeah, they'll still have Batmans, but they won't give you a chance to that'll keep money in your pocket, so you don't have to feel like you got to get this book too, or Booster Gold, or get this Green Lantern. It just keeps everything tight and compact, and then you might get new people coming in that way. That's how I see it. It's just me.
I think what you're going to see with you going forward is there's going to be less things. I think this might work for AT&T and it might work for business, but for comic book fans, especially DC fans, I think this is not a good move at all, because you're going to when it all shakes out, instead of 6 Batman titles, they're going to be 12. There's going to be X amount of Superman titles, and you're not going to have the Booster Golds or the Hawkmans or the kind of characters that DC fans like to read, because it's going to be great for normies that they're trying to attract, because it's just going to be all Batman, all Superman, all Justice League, and YA novels. But I said, as far as someone that appreciates continuity, appreciates a cohesive universe, those days I think are on the clock, and that's what kind of worries me as a decades long DC reader. I'm not sure what's going to be left for somebody like me, but then again, I'm not their target audience anymore.
But look, that's a double-edged sword, because you said continuity. That's to the hardcore fans. But if sales are going down, don't you need newcomers? Don't you need newbies? So it's a double-edged sword.
Well, you do, but is the best way to get it giving them even more of what they weren't already buying, because I said, all those books are out there now. And I think one thing that the comic book industry has done a terrible job of for the 45 years I've been doing this is promoting anything other than the things they're already selling. And I said, I'll use Bendis as an example. I saw another double page ad for Bendis books running across the DC Comics this month. Was there ever a Hawkman ad in anything? Did they ever promote anything that should be? There's not a better written book on the shelves right now than Hawkman, and it sells less than Captain Marvel. That's a problem. But if they're not growing their audience, and they think the way to combat that is to give them more of the things they've already heard of. But I think those fans are already buying as many Batmans as they're going to. And if you can't get people interested in more characters, eventually you're just going to have 25 titles, and half of them are going to be Batman, half of them are going to be Superman.
Yeah. What's interesting about the kind of the direction they're taking, and I read that interview with Jim Lee on the Hollywood Reporter. I would recommend everyone go read that if you haven't already. It's very insightful. But
somebody phone ring.
Yeah, hold on. But in there, he said with their new digital strategy, they kind of want to follow the example of what they did with Injustice, where they release these as digital first. And if it's a popular series and there's demand for it, eventually it goes to print and trades.
Yeah, they go.
But if people don't go and buy the series digitally, there's no demand for it. It never reaches trades, where there's almost a merit-based system for it to be finally released physically. I am excited about the idea of that, to where you put these things out on digitally. They're a much cheaper model. If people are flock to it, they want to finally get the hard copy. Finally, it goes in the stores, and then you don't have to do so much guesswork. There's a built-in audience that already likes that comic book and wants that material. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too. It's just, are they going to be able to get enough? So the digital sale is what's important here. And when you're talking about, it's going to be the same cost as far as like creating the comic book is concerned. You still have to pay the people working on it. So if you don't have the digital, I know they want to increase the digital sales. They want to get digital out there. So that's they look at that as the thing that's going forward, the most important thing. But if that doesn't work, that could be a really quick slide.
Well,
I mean, the prices are always good, but what do they say? Like the digital sales are only like 10% of the
physical.
Yeah, exactly.
But that does not include subscription models. So whoever is paying for Comixology Unlimited, Marvel Unlimited, DC Universe, that pool of money that is in there for subscription-based sales is not included in there. So that number is weird.
Yeah, but those are 6 months. Those are 6 months outside of new releases, though.
Well, additionally, here's. I'm sorry, Palin. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I was just saying that they don't. That doesn't actually pay for new releases. All those books that are on Marvel Unlimited and Comixology are like 6 months to a year old before they get included.
But here's the problem with going to that strategy. Excuse me. You're going to have the same situation you've had with a lot of the other digital first stuff. When it doesn't make its money back on digital sales, they're going to put it into print just to try to recoup their money. Which is what
Jim Lee.
I don't care whether he says that. When it comes down to practice, that's what they've done in the past. That's what Marvel did. That's what DC did.
Yep.
When did DC do that? I only remember Marvel doing all the digital first stuff that didn't work. Digital stuff I remember DC doing is Injustice, and that made a lot of money.
No, what I mean is it's going to be the exact same thing. Whenever the reason why Iceman for Marvel or some of the other books for DC, remember the logic that they always used with the trade paperback sales got it to profitability. And so they collected a book that didn't deserve collections just in order to make it profitable because they weren't going to lose money on it. And that's going to be the same situation with digital. They're not going to be able to help themselves because they're going to sit there and look at a bunch of books that have not made money and then have to explain to AT&T why they didn't take the one other option on how to get it to finally break even.
This is one thing I can say about digital. Digital is coming because I go back to, remember the arcades we used to go to, and you go in the mall and you see all the pretty sounds and games. That's obsolete now because of PlayStation, Xbox, all that crap. But now comics is getting the same way. Even though I want my physical copy in my hand, it looked like the world is going towards digital. Digital movies, digital music, digital comics. It's coming. So I figure somebody has to find a way how to freak that thing. If you get it right, I'm telling you, it's going to be beneficial for everybody. But I can't think in my head because, my brain is not that large. But if somebody figure out that digital, like what Wes said, that's a pretty good idea to have people preview the comics, and then if you get an audience behind that comic, then print out a physical copy. That's really a good idea, but I feel like that idea is still not 100%. You know what I mean?
I think that part of it is that DC is getting so close to printing to order, basically.
It's kind of what they are doing. There's no back ordering right now because whatever the FOC order is, that's what they print.
It is. So it is basically print to order. So even if you don't make great sales digitally, you can still put that collection out print to order, basically. And I don't know. I mean, as far as like not overprinting and having stuff in warehouses that need to be purchased later on, and you're paying money for that. These are all, these are all the things that you'd want to do to cut costs, to make money, and to not lose. But
you're right, because maybe with digitals, you know exactly how many to print out there, and you won't waste money. So I don't know. Maybe digital is the new way. I think it is.
Well, the reason why digital, as far as digital and comics, the main problem with that is it's not collectible. And it's not a collectible. Digital will never be a collectible. So,
and that's definitely true. But it's just like Wes said, we are old comic book heads. We want the physical, but the young kids, the future, they want that.
I agree. I disagree on that. I disagree.
All right, we're not going to have this argument again. I was just saying that Jim really has a plan for digital. He wants to follow their strategy with Injustice, where you release it cheap on digital, and if there's interest and if enough people buy it, then you release it in trade, so it's more of a merit-based system, which is something that we've been asking for. We're getting a lot of things that we've been asking for. We're getting the fat is being trimmed off. Unfortunately, like Breen says, there are some casualties of war here. We're going to lose some cool titles. We're going to lose, Hawkman. We're going to lose some Teen Titans that unfortunately wasn't selling enough. I got a lot of hate on the channel for liking Teen Titans. I thought it was a fun book when Adam Glass was writing it. I know you liked it, Yule.
Teen Titans being actually Hawkman, Suicide Squad, and Teen Titans were all very good. Those are like three of their better books. Like Tom Taylor. I mean, there you go. We're saying like, maybe that was a shot to Bendis that Young Justice got canned. Tom Taylor, we think he can do no wrong for DC, but there he is on Suicide Squad and getting that canceled.
I wonder if that has something to do with they want to we hear a lot about synergy. They want the DC comic book properties synergizing with what's going on in streaming, media, TV. We know the Suicide Squad movie is one of the next ones to come out. I believe principal photography is almost complete. If it isn't complete, maybe they shut it down early so they could relaunch it kind of more fresh with the movie and that team kind of meshing up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're working on a video game too for Suicide Squad. It's supposed to be a big deal. Yeah.
Are they? What's the platform, Fatal J? Bring us the deets.
No, I saw it. Maybe it was a week ago. Chad helped me out. It was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and they had like a target on Superman head that had Suicide Squad on it, like in a cross. And they said this is a big game that they're working on for Suicide Squad.
Well, maybe they're trying to synergize up a game, a comic book release, and the movie all kind of coming at one time, which makes sense. Jim Lee talked about that in the Hollywood Reporter thing too. He's like, these things need to have some connective tissue across mediums. It seems like it's one of the big efforts. Although I will say this, Paley, you probably disagree with me because sales are probably more important to you than me, but I don't want just Batman.
No, it's not. It's not just Batman. It's just
mostly Batman.
Any company out there that neglects the collector's market is going to leave so much money on the table that they're not going to survive. Because at least a full third of people that are buying comics right now are reading them, but they're also buying them as collectibles, and they put them back and they put them away for, as a spec or as an investment or, what have you. Now, printing to order is awesome because it limits the pool. It makes the collectible more powerful. But if you just go from the digital to trade route like that, they're going to lose a third of their sales. They're going to lose a third of the customers right off the bat because people will want that floppy to collect.
I think it's more than that.
But
it probably will be more than that, Doc.
It could expand the base of people buying into comic books because more people have phones and tablets than comic book shops.
That's only because of what they've done to them recently.
I can understand that to a degree, except for the fact that the medium doesn't translate incredibly well to phones. It only translates okay to very, very large and expensive tablets. But no, I think the biggest issue you're gonna run across with this is that while you may get new readers in, you'd have to massively drop the price point. And
they have, it's $1.
I understand. No, my point is, you have to massively drop the price point. You'd have to drastically increase the number of people that you're bringing in. I mean, if say it's even only 30.
That's a good point.
$1 is not going to be the price going forward. That's like the intro to get you hooked.
Yeah,
it's not going to be $1
drug
forever.
dealer. This is drug dealer money.
Well, you know that's kind of like how you do, like Netflix do. You know, the first month is free or real cheap, and then you ease them into the main subscription price. You know,
but
that's what they're doing.
The thing is, if they damage and they recognize how absolutely imperative it is to keep the collector's market, because they've been doing nothing but appealing to the collector's market on the financial side for the last 8 to 10 years.
Variant covers.
The variant cover schemes that keep these books printed only functions with a very large collector market that is willing to throw big money at things. And if you piss on them, you're not going to get that. I mean, look, how many all new X-Men #1s are still sitting in dollar bins now because all the stores hugely overbought in order to get the variants, the ratio variants, to sell to their customers. The only reason they sold that many, these books would have never lasted 3 issues. Most of these titles, even big titles, wouldn't last 10 issues these days without all of the overbuying of stores of product that they will never sell.
Yeah, Catwoman would have been a one-shot. You know, yes. Black Cat would have been a one-shot. You know, it would have. You're talking about books that if there's not the collectors to supplement the reader market like that, then these titles wouldn't even sell half of what they're selling right now. They've got it. Everybody wants, apparently, a lot of people want, the digital only model for half the comics. But the problem that you have with that is, what can they reasonably charge for the digital comics? If they do $1 going forward, what kind of book out there is going to survive making $10,000? And that's not even counting the distribution cost, the storage space on the servers, everything like that. You're going to make $10,000 to $15,000 for a comic book as far as profit.
You'd need to move. And you're right. So you know what they will have to do? They will just have to do it like a Netflix subscription, or they have to do it like that, where it's like 13 or something a month, and do it that way so you can get all the comics you want for $13 a month. They will have to do it.
I think that can work. That can work. You can have a subscription model like that. The only problem is it will drop to 1 issue a month or 1 issue every 2 months then, because you won't have, the only thing it's pushing right now, an issue every 2 weeks like DC does, and a lot of Marvel titles too, is because people are willing to pony up the $4 to $6 to, pay for it. And if you go to a subscription model, I guarantee you're going to see monthly comics again on everything.
You need the amount of buy-in.
This isn't a collector's market debate. We're talking about DC Comics and all the stuff that happened there. Please stop going over to that. We've talked about that enough. All right, Breen, we've got you on here. You've been reading comics longer than all of us. You said you were driving a car the last time DC Comics had a big implosion. I believe that was 1978. You've been through it all, my friend. How are you feeling today? With the cancellations, with the firings, knowing there's evaluations, knowing there's new directions for DC Comics, does it feel like the hobby that you've loved your entire life is slipping away, or do you think it's just it's a needed evolution? Do you not know what to make of it?
Well, I got this, the DC Comics Implosion updated for the 2020 one.
Who put that out?
Tomorrow's,
of course.
To answer your question, Wes, I said, and I touched on it before. Is it a necessary evolution? Maybe. One of the first question I had was, this digital first and then goes to print. Okay, how is that distributed? Does do they order direct from DC? How do the comic shops get copies to sell? And who gets what? I mean, how does that work? I don't know that it can. But as far as like the hobby slipping away, for somebody like me, yeah, it kind of does feel like that because, like I said, I mean, I understand, there's never been a direct correlation between quality and sales. Great books have slipped through the cracks for as long as I've been doing this. I remember like Resurrection Man 25 years ago, Hero in the early 2000s, add Hawkman to that list. And there's other ones
Keith Giffen comic book.
Yeah. I don't, I can see, okay, you might be able to get a few new readers, even though I'm kind of contradicting myself, if you give them more of the stuff that normies recognize, because everybody knows who Batman is, everybody knows who Superman is. But can you keep them when you pretty much have eliminated the variety? And that's what I see happening, as far as like what still makes it into shops. I said, I think we already have enough Superman and Batman. I hate to see the collateral damage being everything other than, a book that, no one who's ever read a comic will recognize. I mean, there'll still be a Wonder Woman, but will there ever be a Zatanna or, any number of, lesser known characters that aren't, household names? And how are you ever going to make them household names? Maybe you can do that through cartoons and movies, but I think
it almost has to be a Batman associated character like Punchline.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how you can grow the hobby because and another thing I've said this for decades now. They are two different audiences. I know there are people that watch all the cartoons, all the movies, all the TV shows, never going to buy a comic book. And those of us that buy the comic books, we also watch all the cartoons, all the movies, all the TV shows. But why am I going to buy the comic book if it's the same as the TV show, the movies, and the cartoons?
Well, the movies and the cartoons just aren't as good as, well.
That's true.
All right. Now, this is not talking about, I'm not talking about the decompressed storylines that, the way comics are told these days. But, when you would read a monthly comic book, it would be a lot of stuff going on in there that they just can't jam into a movie. They can't, they're not going to spend enough time. And then, the TV stuff, they always have to add their little wrinkles that are a little special that don't run into comic books. I also think that Hollywood they look at a stupid costume and they're like, oh, there's no way this is going to relate to normal people, on TV and stuff like that. And then we get an even dumber looking villain than we normally had.
Well, yeah, comics have essentially, it's a 22-page movie with infinite budget.
Yeah.
Every episode. I mean, and it's completely different storytelling. I mean, you can't have all the continuing subplots and everything. I mean, Avengers kind of did it with just some Easter eggs that all got paid off in the final two movies. But for the most part, you can't have decades long subplots. You can't have, you can't make too many references to shit that happened in the past in other movies.
Yeah.
Or else you're turning off the audience.
You don't want to lose somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? You and Eric, they was touching on something. You was talking about that the cartoon content has to be good, and Eric was talking about how it's two audience. I can remember when I first got into comics, what helped back that up, they had good cartoon shows like the X-Men that came on Fox, and they had the Spider-Man that came on Fox, and I was like, geez Louise, I need to get deeper into the comic books because these shows are good, and I want to know what's really going on. I want to delve deeper into that world. And I feel like we're not getting that with the cartoons. It's a little bit too kiddie. Because when you watch those Fox X-Men and Spider-Man, it was some pretty violent scenes and some pretty dark stuff that they was touching on. Make some content to where, it's for the kids, but where the adults can watch it too. And then those kids, they'll grow up and keep buying comics like me.
Well, it's crazy when you think about the cartoons. You could say that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had a long-lasting negative effect on the comic books. It completely kind of changed the fabric of what the comic book was. You could even kind of translate that over to X-Men, Doc, when the X-Men cartoon came out, is more popular than the comic. You know, you got the big arcade game, and all of a sudden the way people understood the characters was based on the cartoon rather than the comic book and the origins.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, hell, my one buddy all the time, he starts talking, we start talking about X-Men, and he starts referring to cartoon shit, and I'm like, none of that happened, dude. That's not from the comics. That's not from, you know, was it cool for the cartoon? Yeah, sure. I mean, but not that stuff didn't happen.
But you know what?
And that kind of ties into what DC Comics is talking about in Jim Lee, is there needs to be some synergy, because if you go and you watch the Young Justice cartoon and it hooks you in and you decide to go check out the comics and you're reading something, you can't understand anything that is happening because none of it relates to each other and there's nothing tying it together, no connective tissue. You might have lost a reader. Oh, Wes, that stuff is needed. You need good video games. You need good shows, because all it is promoting. It's promoting.
You know, but when I was a kid, it was the Super Friends, and that was not really a good cartoon.
Yeah, that was.
But you like Wendy and Marvin, Wonder Dog.
Hey, Wonder Twins were dope.
They're fine. All right. I mean, kind of not. I mean, how do you turn into you're turning into water, not a bucket of water. Okay.
One of them turned into a bucket. The other turned into a bucket of water.
Yeah.
If it weren't for that monkey, they'd be fine. I'll tell you. That's just
Glee. I mean, I watched those like crazy, and I mean, those were the things that until I realized I could pick my own comic books out, and there were different characters other than Spider-Man, Superman, that type of stuff. It was because of the Super Friends that I saw other characters.
Yeah.
You know, and then later on, as years have come on, you know, we've had Justice League Unlimited, and then you get that wide cast of characters. You don't have that wide cast of characters if you don't put comic books out that have those characters in them. So.
You know what? I used to watch that cartoon, and my favorite character was the Apache Chief. When I finally became a comic book reader, do you know how disappointed I was to find out there's like no Apache Chief comic ever?
I know.
No.
I want some Wonder Twin comics, to be honest.
Oh man, I tell you what, this last one was a hoot. I tell you what, that orgies in high school and stuff like that, man, it's some weirdo stuff going on. It was messed up.
I never quite understood. I mean, I understand it's Hollywood being fucking Hollywood, where they need to make it their own, whether or not it was their own. I mean, hell, look at the X-Men cartoon. Who was the character we had in the first issue that literally didn't or the first episode that literally didn't exist? Morph.
Jubilee?
Morph.
Oh yeah, Jubilee had, Morph.
Morph didn't.
Morph. Yeah,
Morph didn't exist. Now he was essentially the same character as Changeling, and the X-Men Changeling, not Beast Boy Changeling, but eventually it took until Age of Apocalypse for them to add Morph into the comics, and even then he was not even our universe.
Well, look, Doc. Look at Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was never in the comics before the Batman animated series. But look what we got now, and that's what
what we got now.
Yeah, look at it.
Okay, the difference between Harley and Morph, though, is Paul Dini and Bruce Timm were comic book guys.
Yeah,
comic book guys that were also animation guys.
Yeah, but Bob Harras was the guy behind all of the X-Men animated.
Yeah, but he was just a producer.
Is Bob Harras at the door too?
Yeah, but he had all that X-Men stuff on lock at that time. If I'm not
Bob Harras out the door? I keep hearing Bob Harras is out the door.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And he would be an enormous asset to go back to Marvel.
There's no way they'd take him back.
I know that they wouldn't, not after, his exit as EIC.
Marvel needs Jim Shooter. They need Jim Shooter.
But Bob Harras would be
maybe
absolutely a great guy to bring back to Marvel, especially to, with how bad their editorial department is currently.
I think a guy like Bob Harras needs to have, he has to be able to do it his way. And if it's not that way, it's just no reason to bother.
Yeah, but remember what Marvel has said recently, and about what Kevin Feige has even said about how he wants to kind of break Marvel Comics up into brands again, the same way that they were in the 90s. Whenever you had the Marvel Universe division, you had the X-Men division, you had 4 editors-in-chief, one for each of those divisions. There was the Spider books,
It just sounds a little bit like what DC is doing now. If they were to go about doing that, you could see the 4 or 5 books that they're going to put out, and then maybe have like some events or mini series that like fill out the bookshelves. And then DC, it looks like they're doing the same thing. We have Harley Quinn's last issues coming out on Wednesday, but of course we still have Batman and all the other related stuff.
I do have to break in, fellas, because we have a member of the panel leaving. Fatal J.
Oh, Fatal J.
I gotta go. Thank you guys so much for having me. And
here, brother.
And get on YouTube bus about West getting monetized again, because I want to read some super chats. That's all I got.
Well, that would be nice. It's if you're just joining us, I'm having a little bit of snafu with my PIN number. It has not arrived, so they've disabled monetization until it shows up. But I'm in the Philippines. I'm not in Manila. I'm out in the country. It's not working out for me. So if you have a contact at YouTube and you can help me out, hit me on the low, hit me in a DM, and we can talk about it. I do want to say this: if you're here and you haven't given us a thumbs up on the video, I hope you're enjoying the panel. Definitely consider doing that. And we do have a question from Ryan Wilson. I'm going to send this one over to you, Breen. Who do you think should be the new head of creative at DC Comics? I say it's Peter Tomasi's time. Who do you think would be better than Peter Tomasi? Or is he the one?
Better than Tomasi? I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I mean, my gut would say, Robert Venditti, but Tomasi's been there longer. His Superman run is, transcendent as far as I'm concerned. That's the second best one I've ever read. Super Sons. I mean, he gets it. And I think, if he were given, the kind of control that, it looked like Jeff Johns had right around the Rebirth time, I think, good things could happen. I just don't know if the industry at this point is ever going to, be in that position again to let somebody treat a comic book universe like a comic book universe and not just, I hate using this term, but an IP farm.
IP farm.
It's ancillary to the.
I used it.
Yeah.
All right, Paley, who would you like to see in charge of DC's creative? I think he went to go check the doorbell. Yule, who would you like to go see as the new head of creative at DC?
I think it's like what Eric was saying. It all depends on the philosophy of the company. If you're just there to nurture these characters so that they can become some bigger thing than a comic book, then I guess any monkey could do it. I'm looking at numbers. This isn't selling. Axe it. It's if you want to actually bring a creator and a team and get them to grow in the book, and actually, it used to be DC. If they started a book, it would go 30 issues, no problem. Back in like 70s, 80s, maybe not the 70s. But how many issues of Amethyst are out there? There's a lot, and DC would always stick it out, and now it's like you turn around and it's got to be canceled if it's not making money, I guess. And that's why I say any monkey could do that. If you want to make the people working on the book good, I think Tomasi is a good choice. Wasn't he an editor before also?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so there you go.
I think that if you want the direction to be story driven, you want it to be art. I mean, it's Jeff Johns. He's right. Ryan Wilson's right about one thing. Jeff Johns had his turn, and I think it's time for a little bit of a different vision. I love Jeff Johns. I really do. He's written some of my favorite DC comics ever. But I think that Tomasi would be great. Venditti would be great. 2 names that have already been mentioned. It would take a lot of money and it would take a lot of arm twisting. But I think Sean Gordon Murphy would be a great direction setter, would be a great EIC. because he has incredible vision. He knows what he wants to do in a particular, when he gets in a creative mode like that, he has an idea of where he wants to go with something. And then you put in, maybe give Grant Morrison, some time again, not in the chief seat, but like in a head editor position and writer. I think that could work. But it would take a lot of arm twisting to get Murphy in the seat.
All right, Doc. Who would your choice be, and why would it be Jim Shooter?
Well, it would be Jim Shooter just because he's available and would be the smart choice for it, and he's not one of the guys that was recently fired. In all,
and he got a start on the Legion of Superheroes when he was 14.
He did. Maybe Dan Jurgens, but honestly, I'm seeing because we fall back into the habit of looking at writers or even artists sometimes as the people to oversee.
Get a letterer in there to take over.
No, but it's not that. You're not. You seem to think that, like, we all seem to think that there's an easy transition over to an editorial and direction setting role.
I think we're looking for people that have a good grasp on what we want the characters to be.
Yeah,
the person that's going to be in charge of creative is a person that WarnerMedia thinks has a good grasp on what they want, where they want them to take the characters with the other mediums that they have.
And I'm really seeing a giant void in that area. I mean, Jim Shooter, sure. I mean, but and Sean Gordon Murphy, he's a little too new, and I think he wants to get into the weeds too much. You need somebody that's willing to stay out of that's going to set the direction without getting involved in any particular.
What about Jeff Loeb? He's available, and he had some amazing success over on Netflix with streaming and converting Marvel properties from one to the other. Certainly has a reputation at DC.
Jeff would be good. The only problem with Jeff is I don't think he wants to do comics. It's the reason why he hasn't really done any comics in a good long while.
Yeah, but he's kind of been he gets dragged through the mud a bit also. So who knows who he's in the outs with at one time. He has to earn his way. I heard an interview with him on Fat Man on Batman, and he was talking about how he went from movies to comics, and he had you had to earn your way. This wasn't just like some guy coming in and we're giving him the keys to the comic kingdom like we do these days. And then when he wanted to go back into movies, he had to earn his way back in because it was a new crop of new people coming in who didn't know who the hell he was. And then also over the years, there's been people that aren't so happy with him, especially right now. Yes.
Somebody's talking about Tom Taylor. Sorry, no. He is way too woke. I mean, it is just, if he has an editor riding his ass and keeping him like on the straight and narrow, that man can write an awesome apocalyptic type of comic. It is just, nobody writes zombies and post-apocalyptic comics like Tom Taylor. But other things,
poor Kirkman.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, somebody like Kirkman, except for the fact that he's not going to leave Image. He's
his cushy chair. No way.
Yeah, he's not going to leave Image. He's a partner at Image. It wouldn't shock me to see them, try to bring in an outside studio to kind of manage some of the properties the same way that Marvel did with bringing in Wildstorm and Extreme back in the 90s for Heroes Reborn, or whenever they brought in Event Comics to and then handed them what became the Marvel Knights line at Marvel. I mean, that's where Joe Quesada, how he got in. So that's how he got the gig. So it wouldn't shock me.
Is he the one to bring over?
No, I don't think current Joe is. No. Joe, even 15 years ago, absolutely. Even 10 years ago, absolutely. But no, he's way too he's become, instead of being like Carnival Barker Joe, he's Status Joe. He just wants to keep the status quo, and he's not interested in shaking. No, he's not interested, because he's not interested in fighting anymore, and that's not really going to work. But you could have something like a smaller studio. Honestly, the guys that I would try to bring in,
I would go Dinesh Shamdasani.
Yeah,
what he did with Valiant was amazing.
and you could be right on that. I still think that probably the best independent studio out there that you could bring in and manage it would be Man of Action.
All right, I like that. It's a very good pick.
So is that a person, or is that just a state of mind?
No, Man of Action is a studio. It's Joe Kelly, Joe Casey, Steven Siegel, a couple of artists. Yeah, Duncan Rouleau. One more artist that I'm blanking on. They do actually. Ed McGuinness used to be part of it.
I don't think you can pay them enough necessarily. I mean,
they're
so entrenched in TV and animation. Joe Kelly, Joe Casey, they do whatever they want when they want now.
Yes. I
don't see them, and they've done their time over at DC. They've done their time over at Marvel. They would have to back up a ton of money, and I don't think DC cares that much about nurturing talent.
Yeah. To answer Atomic Hound's question, is Dinesh currently doing esports? No. Dinesh was a consultant to Sony when they were doing the Bloodshot movie. Now that is over, he is starting his own comic book publishing line called Bad Idea Comics. You may have seen some tweets about it if you're online, along with Warren Simmons, his old EIC, and a couple other investors. So he is starting his own new comic company with Matt Kent's going to be a creator. Tomas Giorello. I think Robert Meditti is going to be on there. There's a few other writers. They're all really big names. And so Dinesh has got things that are going, but they should bring him over to DC. There you
go. Speaking of Dinesh, though, the thing that I've gotten this bigger and bigger feeling about what he's doing with Bad Idea is it's next for comics, like what Steve Jobs did with Next Computers. Because it wasn't about actually ever making the next computers or anything like that. It was about getting brought back to Apple. And I think Dinesh is doing the exact same thing in order to get bought out and brought back into Valiant.
Well, he wouldn't be. He was already bought out. He'd have to buy in. He'd have to buy it from DMG.
No, DMG buying out Bad Idea in order to bring him back, basically buying him again.
Oh,
because that's what Steve Jobs did with Next Computers. He went and started a new computer company with no intention of ever releasing it, and in order to get Apple to buy him.
Oh, that's smart. What do we think about Jordan Gorfinkel?
Who?
He's an editor.
Is this a made up person?
No, I just Google searched it. He's an American editor, comic book creator, newspaper cartoonist, and animator. Boom. Oh. Sorry, Dale. It sounds like Jordan Gorfinkel is not going to make the cut.
I just don't
thinking outside the box.
I just don't think that anyone named Gorfinkel will ever be an EIC.
Sorry, Mrs. Gorfinkel.
Does he come along with Paul Simon? I mean,
Soyman.
Grant Morrison loves
I love it. I love these people saying
weird.
Of course it would. But
Willow Wilson.
He would Grant Morrison at least knows his Silver Age. He knows his history. If you came up with something, and he would, and it's kind of cardboardy, I could see him coming up with a little tweak to it that would be good for storytelling.
The reason why I thought about Morrison, the reason why I thought about Morrison is because the dark tone that they've kind of got going for the new Batman film. That's going to be pretty dark. It's going to be pretty kind of steampunk, almost kind of Victorian darkness, and that's got a particular feel to it. And that is right inside of Grant Morrison's wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So
also right inside of Tom King's wheelhouse, because he's going to be it's going to be an emotional tale of Batman.
ugh.
He's going to be emotionally conflicted, Pele.
Yeah, but Tom King is retarded, so you can't have a retarded person running DC.
Hey, you never know. The Batman might be based off of Tom King's run.
Ugh.
He's emotionally fragile.
Tom King as editor in chief starts the day. You go to the bullpen and he gives Xanax to everybody.
Yeah,
Says, "All right, everybody, take your Xanax now."
make sure you cry over your white privilege.
I got a question for everybody. Let's start with Breen. I'm sorry you're not getting. If you want somebody that knows a lot about comic books to be in charge of DC Comics, it should be Breen. Probably he knows more than any of us. And, he's got the temperament for it. But Breen, if there's one change, of all the stuff that that DC Comics and Jim Lee are talking about when they're they're removing comics, they're evaluating creators. They've done a lot of layoffs. What's the one change that you think is feasible that you would actually like to see happen besides what's already happened?
Can I take the easy answer and say get rid of Bendis and give his books to people that can actually make the characters readable again?
It's not the easy answer.
I assume it would save them money if they did that.
Yeah.
Well, even if they had to buy him out, all kidding aside, he has taken the most recognizable character in pop fiction and taken his sales down to under 40,000 a month on the two titles. Legion of Superheroes doesn't get anything. And I said, but so yeah, I would start there. Just look past his name and look.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you. My channel needs Brian Michael Bendis DC content to keep.
Wes, you're thinking like 5,000 sub, thinking critical. You that.
I want to go bigger. If I want to go big, I got to have a Bendis free DC Comics. And
you're you're bigger than that now, Wes.
Comic works.
Oof.
Sorry, Jimmy.
All right, Yule, if you were in charge for a day, you could make one change that is feasible within the realm of what Jim Lee is talking about. What would you do?
I would make comics monthly again. That'd be. I mean, you don't need to change your price. You don't need to change your price. I would make them monthly again. It would have helped Flash immensely, and I think it would. Even Tom King's Batman would have sold better if it was monthly. It can't write it that way though. But you said one thing, so I say monthly comics again.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, Riley. What's the one thing if you were kingmaker for a day, you could implement a change? It could be putting someone into one of these leadership positions that's been vacated. It could be getting rid of a creative talent. It could be a change in direction of DC Comics. What would it be?
Aside from shooting the Portland Mafia, I would probably de-age John Kent and say that was an entire accident, and that never happened.
It's too easy. You've got the wrong John Kent. He was from another multiverse, and
Yep.
real one's still out there waiting to be saved.
Oh, that poor little kid.
Yeah, if
He's
they
gonna
did
be
that,
evil.
I'd be really grateful. But apart from that, just shooting the Portland Mafia. Yeah, that's it.
I wouldn't advocate shooting anybody, but this would be my idea. I think
You need
this
a
would
photo
probably
shoot, right?
invigorate the entire comic industry as they followed DC Comics lead. And I would probably heavily invest in variant covers. I would be doing 1 in 10s, 1 in 25s, 1 in 50s, 1 in 100s, 1 in 150s. I would even bring in the 1 in 213 variant cover and really just flood the shelves with variants. What do you think about that one, Yule?
If you want to make some money, that's the way to go for sure. If you want to make sure people buy your comic books, that's a thing you can do for sure. And DC doesn't actually do. I mean, only recently have they been playing with those variant ratios. Usually,
it should have be covered if it was a milestone.
Yeah, there would be things like
and then
that.
you could
But
choose what you wanted.
yeah, this entire Joker war and Death Metal, and now it's like they're like, we're gonna do Marvel. We'll do it.
Yep.
I know there was a time, because like DC was actually like tops in sales during Doomsday Clock and Metal and all these events that they were doing, and even when you would look at the the money made, just pure profit, Marvel was always beating DC, and it's because Marvel has no problem charging $5 for a book when it should have been $3 or $4 or $7. And if DC jacks up the price to $10, Marvel's going to do $12. And I think someone at DC was super
pissed. Number 1,000, they'll make up their own number 1,000.
Well, there is that too.
Go ahead and read that. Go ahead and read the.
So
the
Comic Quirks, I think this is aimed more at Breen than me, if I'm being honest. He said, guys, Bendis isn't the problem with DC, and I agree with you there. The problem is who's running it. That was part of the problem, because it was Didio that actually hired Bendis. There is no leader. It certainly seems like Jim Lee is the leader. That's the problem. They need one actual leader. It feels like Jim Lee is the leader. He actually got promoted. He's kind of in charge of everything right now. But the problem with DC, with Bendis, wasn't Bendis. It was that Didio hired him. That was the problem.
Yeah, but Bendis hasn't written anything good since he was hired.
Well, Jimmy
whose
thinks
fault is that?
Superman, Action Comics, and Legion of Superhero are good. And he's upset
with that.
They're awful. They're terrible. They're some of the worst writing that Superman has ever seen since the 60s, when he's had Mr. Mxyzptlk and those cast of characters, like, turning people into like balloons and floating them around Metropolis. It's awful. Terrible.
What were you saying, Breen?
I would say there is one exception. The Batman universe that he did for the Walmart exclusives that was eventually collected in a hardcover, that was a fun story because it didn't affect anything, continuity wise. If that's his strength, give him bring back Elseworlds and let him do that, so he doesn't just continue to anger readers with what he's doing in the Superman books, in the Legion, and anything else.
Can you imagine if he was writing Batman, he would change the origin story of Bruce to like find a more important villain that actually killed his parents.
Oh, the man behind Joe Chill. Yeah. It'd be Togol Nar or
and
something.
Then it wasn't the Joker doing it all along. There was some big force that was behind it the whole time that Brian Michael Bendis created. It's the most important villain in DC.
Well, give Scott Snyder a little more time. He'll do the same thing, just a little better.
Well, it'll be a Batman Lex Luthor mashup. What it'll be. Is that what you want? Do you want a Batman Lex Luthor combined character?
No. I think. Look, we all know that Bendis should have been doing something like Batman anyway. When he is at his best, it's someone that doesn't leave the ground for the most part. It's got to be citywide type stuff and not big, spectacular stories. I mean, Bendis has never been really one of my favorite writers. There was a time when I really thought he was good, and then you see him all the time doing the same tricks. And that's what we're getting with Legion of Superheroes. That's what we're getting with Superman. We're getting that with Action. And it's just boring. And I agree. When he doesn't have like continuity that he has to deal with, and it's not going to affect every other story out there, a story like his Batman, I really think Batwoman was what he should have been writing all this time. He loves doing like a gay or black character, and that would have been perfect for him because it isn't Batman, but it's Batman-like. And he probably wouldn't have screwed it up, but you got to give him Superman. You got to give him Action because you paid him money.
He needs to be on street level books.
Exactly.
Where he's always. I mean, what was his best stuff at Marvel?
The Daredevil. Yeah, Alias. Yeah.
Yeah. What was his best stuff before Marvel? Sam and Twitch.
I loved his Sam and Twitch. It was one of the best things going at that time.
Some writers just really kind of work best with crime stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, fine. Ultimate Spider-Man was okay. It was pretty good, but all he was doing was basically retelling a bunch of stories from the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s.
Just updating.
But updating and decompressing.
And decompressing.
But Powers, Sam and Twitch, if he wanted to deal with superhero stuff, he did it with Powers. But Batman would have been a great fit for him over there. Gotham Central would have been a great fit for him.
It's DC brought him over like it was when Marvel was bringing him over. Back then, that's exciting, and it wasn't even a thought that they would give him, the keys to their universe the way they did. That it'd be like 10 or 20 years of him. But if DC would have done that then, that's fine. But they're doing it now after seeing everything that's happened. He was on his way out with that with Ironheart. He was on his way out with the Defenders. Those were trash books. I mean, he didn't care. Yeah. He didn't have any heart in those books at all. And he's going to come over to this company, and he's going to be a big hire. It's like a baseball player. You're getting a veteran who had their last best year a couple years ago. And now you're hiring him on. And it's like, why? Why would you do that?
And you're giving him the pay that he should have got 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And you're giving him the prime lineup position.
Dude, you're giving him imprints like crazy.
Yeah. Instead of look, the guy needed to be on a prove it contract. I mean, if we want to make a sports analogy here, when you have a veteran that was good for a while and has had a couple of down years, you need to put him on a prove it contract. You don't give him gravy jobs.
Yeah, you're just signing him to a minor league contract.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bendis.
It's a tryout.
The best time to have brought Bendis over, because I will give him credit for being one of the creative forces behind those years at Marvel when they had events that mattered.
Dude, it was crazy the way they
War,
it was good.
Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, et cetera, et cetera. They should have plucked him to go to the New 52, because that Bendis that I'm talking about from 2003 to 2010, he was long gone by the time he left Marvel. That writer doesn't exist anymore, and he proved it when he came to DC and did what he did.
Right. When he did what he did, it sounds like he burnt something. He pooped all over it.
Well, he kind of has.
He burnt Superman to the ground. He destroyed the League.
Superman's fireproof.
Maybe that's why he introduced the fire chief.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Put that out.
But it feels like we got a little break here. I'm sorry, Doc. I do want to say this to everybody. I'm closing in on like 8,000 subscribers as a channel right here. My goal when the year started was to hit 10,000. I thought maybe I could hit it, but it did feel like it wasn't going to happen there for a little while. And it looks like it probably is. So if you're out there and you've ever shared the content with your friends or given a video a like or left a comment, I just want to say thank you very much. Without everyone kind of interacting with the channel and letting other people know that, we have a different take on here. We present comics or at least comic news and opinions in a little bit different way. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I do want to say thank you. While I do have a pretty decent sized audience here, I don't want to get too sappy and run everybody off, but from the bottom of my heart, I do want to say thank you all very much. The amount of growth on the channel the last 30 days, 60 days has actually been phenomenal and been insane. So thank you all very much. Back to the regular scheduled topic. Yule, what comics do you think are going to be next on the chopping block? Are we gonna start seeing the Sandman universe kind of get wiped away? I'm imagining we're not going to ever see Jinx World again. None of those really sell. Young Animal doesn't really sell. Are we going to start losing some of these imprints that?
I don't think there's any reason to keep the imprints going. Young Justice was the only ongoing, right? So
Wonder Comics has I guess Wonder Twins was a.
It got an extra 6 issues, but it was a mini series to begin with. Naomi's
been canceled already. Well, she moved over to Young Justice.
Yeah, I don't know how much they paid the person to make the logo, but yeah, you can get rid of it now.
Now that Young
Justice, it was too.
unless they went on Fiverr.
Yeah. What is going to be next? Well, I mean, it will never be Wonder Woman, so we know that, and you got to keep Superman and Batman going.
Actually, you know what? That is a great idea. Breen for EIC of DC.
Absolutely. That's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
He would be the man for the choice. But so do you see any, is Nightwing going to be on the chopping block? That's a very popular character, but sales are down. We know the real Dick Grayson's coming back.
Let's see. I mean, it's like someone said earlier, like, was it really Kelly Sue DeConnick saying this was always the plan to end Aquaman? And
nope.
Well, they threw in the Tom Taylor one, and you said that the Suicide Squad, if we want synergy for the movie and the video game and stuff like that, that makes perfect sense. So maybe Aquaman could also have been the same thing. I mean, she took it in its own direction, not necessarily what I wanted to read. And if they want to get that synergy going again and a new number one, I could see Aquaman coming back. But again, we'll never see Wonder Woman go. We'll always have a Superman and a Batman. But yeah, Nightwing could easily be the next one. Maybe like after the whole Joker war, see how it goes. And if they put a real creative team on that people would be interested in, I look to the creative team. If you don't like them and they don't sell, it probably isn't going to stick around much longer. I was really upset about the Teen Titans personally. That was a bummer for me.
Well, don't say that too loud. You're going to get us booed off the channel.
You're all wrong.
Do you think Dan Jurgens has had any control over what he's been writing in Nightwing? Because he got stuck with Tom King's storyline. Then he got, run into the Joker war thing. So I'd like to see him have a shot at him, post all of this to just write Nightwing.
I hear you there. Editorial control and other people's stories that affect yours, it was always a shame when Peter David had to get sucked into some event, because I usually liked reading his stuff anyway. But yeah, and so like Dan Jurgens, it's not necessarily anybody who's written Nightwing's fault. Dan Didio wants this to happen, or whoever wants this to happen. But I thought Dan Jurgens was on the out over at DC. No?
You know some gossip? Are you breaking news here?
It was said a while ago, and people were upset when he talked about fat people and stuff like that.
Oh, on the plane?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was hilarious, but I
thought Dan Jurgens was getting a little run during this last Warren Ellis time period, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's the wrong guy.
Never heard his name.
I feel bad, but these old timers have to go. We gotta get rid of them.
Dan Jurgens did the death of Superman, right?
He did, yeah.
I reinvigorated, one of the best-selling comics of all time, right?
Yeah, Farsec is a maxi series. That's a 12-issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, miniseries. That's the way of the future, right? Miniseries events, your core titles, and then digital to print, and that's DC.
Well, yeah, and YA graphic novels.
Oh, and YA graphic novels. Yeah.
All right, Pele, what character do you want to see on YA graphic novels?
John Kent.
I think we got one of those, didn't we? There was a Super Sons one, definitely.
Yeah, we need more of them. We need more of those. They sell like hotcakes. They sell like gangbusters. Yeah, those. I think Zatanna would probably do really well.
She's got one too.
Yeah. Let's see.
Beast Boy's got one. Who else should be in there? Maybe
Wonder
Twins.
Twins.
They do a Damian Wayne window? Is he too insane?
Yeah, he's crazy. He's already jumped to kidnapping and like manslaughter. So no.
Can we get an emo Damian Wayne?
I know what I want.
Graphic novel.
Damian's there forever.
Raven, definitely. Raven has the best-selling young adult graphic novel they ever had from Cami Garcia.
I know what
what is it? Harley, Joker, and Criminal Sanity? Something like that. Plastic Man. Now we're talking a Plastic Man miniseries, but not with Gail.
Did you see? Oh man! Speaking of Plastic Man, did you see what he did for his deceased?
Yes,
Jeez, man! Oh my God, that was brutal. That was
'Cause he had
absolutely
like, such a
brutal.
great entry for the team, being led by Constantine and everything. Like, oh, great, they got all this backup now. Nope.
Nope. Showed that Plastic Man is the most OP character in DC Comics.
They might as well just put like red uniforms on all those people because they did not make it.
No, it was brutal.
What I really want is a YA graphic novel. I got 3. I want a Killer Croc, a
He's just understood.
Superboy Prime,
Ugh.
like crazy Superboy Prime.
And Solomon Grundy?
No, and Wildstorm version of the Midnighter.
Oh, okay.
So
All
just
right.
straight up slaughtering people.
Oh, no, wait. I got it. YA graphic novel of Lobo.
What about a guys'
Isn't
night
that
out?
New 52?
Look, guys, this is legitimate news. Doc, Wildstorm is your favorite corner of the DC Comics universe. John
Absolutely.
Ridley, I think, as his DC work is exclusive on Wildstorm, he did an Authority run. He also did something called American Way. I think he did 2 of those series. We know he's coming back to do his other histories of the DC universe, but now it's been announced that his Batman Generation 5 story is going to be released on Black Label as well. With what you've read from Ridley in Wildstorm, do you think he's a good fit for these titles? Do you think this is going to fit Black Label and be good for DC Comics?
He's definitely much more of a Black Label type creator. He's not somebody I'd want in the main Wildstorm universe. I did not like his Authority Human on the Inside. I did like American Way, but it was not part of the Wildstorm universe. It was just a Wildstorm published book. No, I could get behind him on a Black Label book, but not a DCU title. He does not fit well for that. He's way too opinionated and definitely trying to moralize to the reader, and that fits much better with Black Label.
So are you excited? Are you going to pick up his Batman series?
I might give it a shot, but at the same time, I halfway expect him to use Batman as a mouthpiece for his social opinions. I mean, because remember, he's the guy that, in addition to his comic work, he did that American Crime Story for ABC, like 3 seasons, and every one of them was about some minority
Social justice.
It was very social justice-y. So I halfway expect him to use Batman as a mouthpiece for that in it.
Oh yeah. I don't think that would not be a surprise. Let's put it that way. That would be right in his wheelhouse. And for some reason, he's one of those people that, he thinks that because he has a job as an artist with a company that means he has a pulpit. So,
well,
Yeah, but isn't that why they're hiring him also?
yes, exactly. That
I
is
mean,
which is why
literally
he doesn't need it.
Yeah, I'm just, it's kind of like, we could dog on Bendis all this time, but we knew, how did the people know that DC didn't know that he was the way he is, and the same thing with Ridley, or Kelly Sue on Aquaman. Bad choices to put those people on these things, but,
yeah, I have an expectation.
You're doing it.
I have an expectation John Ridley's Black Label Batman is just going to be like Twitter hot takes about how Batman's actually the villain, the comic book.
Well, his Batman is Luke Fox, right?
Yes.
I don't think Batman is going to be the villain.
Well, I mean Bruce Wayne. Sorry.
Okay, well, maybe. There we go.
what and he's doing the history, the other history of the DC universe also, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious on whether
I'm
or not
looking.
that's- whether or
I'm
not-
interested.
I am curious about. I'm really curious about whether or not he touches very much on the milestone stuff.
Well,
'Cause
that would be
right in
interesting
his
also.
wheelhouse.
I thought it was going to be like DC origins, and then from a POC perspective.
Yeah, the history of the DC universe, but from a new perspective.
Sure. Well, like what was Black Lightning doing during that time? And when the crisis was going on, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't jammed in there.
That'll sell like gangbusters, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's going to be Black Label, and it'll be a little bit more mature, right? I think it sounds interesting. Depending on who they have for art and the style of it, it could be good.
Coley, he's a good artist.
Oh, I like Coley, yeah. It could be very good. You know, I guess it just depends. Are you the kind of person that like the truth or not?
Are you?
Yeah, I like The Truth. I thought it was a pretty good book. It was very interesting. And I like Kyle Baker quite a bit.
So apparently, you know, I know that you do have contacts within the comic book industry. Is this just the beginning of all these DC changes, or is this kind of like the status quo for maybe at least a year or two, or do you think it's still working itself out?
No, I think that from what I've heard, and this is not just comic book industry, this is media industries overall, is that they've set fire to their money. They're going broke. They're in extremely dire straits right now, and the bean counters have basically come to them and say, "What the hell have you been doing? We have to start making money." So you know, just about everybody that's jumped into the woke movement went broke, and even Disney right now is just crippled. The virus just made everything worse, and you know, it's going to happen. We're going to see in the next 24 months that there's going to be a purge. It's already happened. It already happened in esports. It's already happened in the video game industry. Ubisoft right now just let 40% of their workforce go because, you know, and you know who the 40% were? They were all the people that human resources had problems with. So, you know, this is going to go forward, and you're going to see a purge of those types of social justice-y types. And they're going to scream, they're going to yell, they're going to set social media on fire over it. But at the end of the day, they weren't making money. And I think that the companies.
You think the DC layoffs, firings is about social justice people?
I think that they ended up, I think I saw the tally of it was 3/4 of them were people that were directly involved with their social justice initiatives. So I think that they used it as an excuse to purge as many of them the worst of them as they possibly could, and get rid of some of the people that were underachieving at the same time. And we're going to see the same thing happen at Marvel.
Social justice, anything. She was just.
I know. I'm not saying they're all that way.
She's probably making a couple bucks.
She's probably making a lot of money because she's older.
Yeah,
but or not older, but she's a longer tenured employee. But you know, there's like 800 people that were laid off by WarnerMedia. Obviously, it was going to affect DC Comics. Now, did they take that opportunity when they said you got to get rid of 3 editors? Did they say who are the biggest pains in the asses? Like,
yeah,
let's get rid of them. Of course you would.
And who isn't Jim Lee's pal Hank Kanalz?
I mean, I think that if you
could have been let go.
To answer the question, you look at the people who are most likely the biggest pains in the ass to work with, the people that are like taking the day off to go and protest, the people that are, you know, that are setting social media on fire constantly with their incredibly hot takes. You know, you look at all those people. 90% of the time, these are the woke activists. So they're like, I see a correlation here. So let's just cut them loose, and we'll try to start fresh.
Right. The only one that was notorious for that was Andy Corey. He's the only one that got released.
I'm betting Andy Corey went because he literally has never sold a damn thing.
Yeah, because he was part of Vertigo just dying with Mark Doyle.
Yeah, he killed Vertigo. Did Doyle Doyle got let go too.
Absolutely. And Cunningham got let go. I think that's because probably he was more senior.
Yeah. Cunningham, he doesn't sell enough of the books that he's, you know, kind of overseeing to justify probably his salary. Mm-hmm. And Doyle and Corey got let go because they literally killed Vertigo and have killed every other thing that they've ever touched.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the people that they let go, as far as I understand, they were like interns and kind of newbies that didn't have a lot of time with it. And then the senior people that were let go were people that were kind of like loyal to Dan Didio or of that mindset. They're like,
yeah, a lot of people that were
thoughts on DC are not what we're doing. You got to move on.
Yeah, a lot of the people that were let go were the people that were, you know, probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know, they were people that were, you know, hired on specific initiatives, you know, and they're like, well, these people really didn't seem to know what they were doing. So,
I mean, somebody in the chat mentioned that, you know, that Jim Lee said yesterday that they were, quote, doubling down on diversity and inclusivity.
Yeah, they say that.
Well, first of all, they said they were remaining committed, not doubling down. But secondly, honestly, this just sounds like
the excuse.
It's just it's bullshit
corporate talk.
Yeah, it's bullshit corporate speak that you might as well just say. And by the way, we hate Nazis too. Everybody knows this.
Yep.
You know that you can, you know, it's just something that they might as well throw in there because a lot of the people and a lot of the titles that are getting axed are the ones that are with social justice-y creators, social justice-y themes.
DC doesn't do it as bad as like
no,
you know,
but they get dragged for it, and they're trying to prevent the social media dragging.
Well, I mean, they're still
cover their ass.
It's interesting what they're going forward with, and again, you know, some of the people that they brought in. I mean, you know, Kelly Sue and Aquaman was a really bad move. It was dumb. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Creator and character.
Well, I mean, the thing is like she's not bringing any of her fans over to read that book. You know, and the other thing is like they don't want to read Aquaman.
They don't want to read comic books. They want to read her Twitter.
Well, that might be, but still, and we're seeing these people getting fired, obviously. But I always felt like Marvel was a lot more what people complain about when they talk about, you know, social justice in comics and stuff like that, because usually the art's been bad and the stories are really ham-fisted, and DC. It really, for the most part, just feels like it's all about money right now. It just Andy Curry was just like I said, it was fun. It went with the frumpy Wonder Woman thing, and then he got fired, and that was, you know, I mean that's never funny, but I mean there was.
It was funny in a bad way.
Exactly.
I don't want anyone to lose their job, but it was funny that he did that.
Oh no,
it was a
Curry
nice little juxtaposition, is all I'm saying.
Irony funny.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that fall under the heading of tweets that didn't age well?
Yes.
Exactly.
It didn't even age 24 hours.
Something, man.
Well, I mean the sentiment still stands. I'm sure he loves that, and so it aged fine.
I'm more proud today than I've ever been. And I was like, well,
exactly.
Okay.
You pull milk out of the fridge and put it on the counter, and it ages better.
That was literally the exact analogy I was about to use.
I mean, God,
it aged like milk on the counter.
Was frumpy Wonder Woman really like that big of a moment for women's suffrage? It was probably a bad take on Wonder Woman. This is what frumpy Wonder Woman. If people buy the cover,
that was obese Wonder Woman.
Well, I mean, it's Wes had a show, I think, with Perch where they were talking. It's just it's another corporate synergy.
This is the first time.
But this is the first time you talked about. Oh, okay. So maybe it was just Perch. It's just a corporate synergy thing. They own Rooster Teeth. They, I guess, in effect, own this woman to do this work, and they own DC, and they're just gonna try to elevate, if you can call it that, elevate everything so that they can just ultimately sell that stuff off when they need to.
Well, it's a good indicator you should never watch anything from Rooster Teeth now.
Maybe so.
Jeez.
I don't even know what Rooster Teeth is. I'm assuming it's some type of web
cartoons. It's cartoons and type of,
I watch Coco Melon and Dave and Ava.
I think it's some bean mouth nonsense cartoons that aren't good enough to end up on Comedy Set or Cartoon Network.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That says it all. It's stuff that Crunchyroll wouldn't even buy.
What did you think of Frumpy Wonder Woman?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. They put that out there and get all, they knew what they were doing. They knew they were going to, piss off the right people, get plaudits from the right people. And in that respect, it achieved what it was, what it set out to do. Is it ever going to help sell a comic? Of course not. But is it, kind of indicative of where the industry is headed? And to Yule's point, Marvel far more than DC, but DC, still, is, prone to doing things like this. And that, to me, that speaks to a larger issue in the industry. To touch on what Jim Lee said, talking about, remaining committed to diversity and inclusiveness. What was he supposed to say? Because you're only allowed to have one opinion in public now. And so the only opinion you were allowed to have in public was that Wonder Woman cover was, say it with me, kids, stunning and brave. And I said, until the industry can just look at stuff like that and say, they have two choices at this point. They can look at stuff like that and say, we're not doing that anymore. Or just admit that that is what they want the industry to be. And just, keep giving us, more variant covers or, alternate covers or whatever like that.
I think that what happened too with that is they expected a lot of the outrage and they expected a lot of the plaudits, but what they got was laughter. They got just mockery and laughter. And you got, is what I think that, what was it?
It was DC's New Warriors moment.
Oh yeah, it was. And one of the artists, I can't remember who it was. Is somebody that worked for DC in the past. Was like, it's really sad that you get an example of Wonder Woman that can't even fit in her invisible jet.
She needs to buy 2 seats on her invisible jet.
She can't even fit through the door of her invisible jet because her ass is just too wide.
That got Dan Jurgens in trouble.
So, I'll have to look and see who that was. They probably deleted it by now, but I was just rolling laughing at that. But and they're right. That's ridiculous. She may not be the most beautiful woman in the entire world, but she would be damn athletic. She would be, Wonder Woman's most athletic woman in the world, period.
Beautiful woman in the world.
So you're saying she was a backpack away from being Trailblazer?
Yes.
Oh, she was like, just a muffin away. So,
but no, it was it was DC's new Warriors moment where everybody just, okay, fine, they got the derision, they got the applause.
Well, Warriors is like one of the most downvoted.
Yes, well, they didn't exactly decide to do a YouTube, trailer for Frumpy Wonder Woman.
Frumpy Wonder Woman didn't make the Joe Rogan show. Come on.
Well, all right. So
because they didn't make a trailer.
Joe isn't really picking that low-hanging fruit anymore. He's just kind of like, ugh.
The thing is, though, the difference is that Safe Space one is a comic book. That is the story that you're going to be reading. Yeah. Whereas this is just a freaking cover. You know what I mean?
A bad cover.
I understand. What I'm saying is it was their moment of just being mostly mocked and laughed at.
Yeah, I think that's true. Of course, they tempered that with a bunch of firings. So.
Yeah.
That everybody was crying about them.
Yeah, what did you think about the reaction, Yule? Did you think it was a little bit over? Like, I would see it's like Black Monday or Bloody Monday, or just like it
wasn't for me.
You realize they didn't even get gutted. They lost a few people. It's bad. I hate for anybody to lose their job. But
maybe Eric can speak to this a little bit more than me, but I feel that DC fans are longtime fans, and they have a certain thing that they expect. And so I'm
talking about the people, the creators.
Right. So, like when the New 52 came out, they hired Bob Harras and Bobbie Chase and these old 90s and 80s Marvel stalwarts, and they wanted to kind of refocus their company. And I know there was a lot of old timers that were like, I'm not buying this DC anymore.
Yep.
And I mean, maybe you don't feel that way, or other people, we got a lot of new readers. We had like those Marvel readers would come on, and kind of like with Bendis, he came over, and so did a lot of the readers that, Superman people dropped off, but then we got new people reading Superman. And they should have probably never been over at DC, Bob Harras, Bobbie Chase, really, because they were bringing a Marvel style to the company. And I think it wasn't that upsetting to me that those people got fired. Andy Curry got fired. Titles getting canceled. It has to happen. And that's just the way it is.
I've got so many old timers that I've not seen now in like 6 months, a year, 2 years, because they were coming in and buying Superman. They were coming buying action. They had a lot of nostalgia, that they wanted to tickle. And when my dad dropped Superman, that was when I was like, whoa. This is a man who bought Superman since 1962, and since he was a kid, and nonstop, unbroken Superman since 1962. And tell you what, he's not the only one. Like I said, there's septuagenarians, octogenarians, people in their 60s too. I mean, just people that came in every single week, bought their comics, talk a little bit, and then they'd leave. And that is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars each week that are just gone. And that's just at my place. And so I could just imagine what it is across the country. And they just those people are disenfranchised now. They're not, they don't have any comics that that are suited for them, that are pointed at them. And, where's that inclusiveness? Why can't you be inclusive with older generations who want their, that want their normal, more, vintage style of comics? You can't be inclusive with them, but you can be inclusive with people that have never even bought a comic before and were likely not going to. That's crazy. It's abandonment.
I think you can certainly go out and try and court a new audience without trying to let your old audience go. Obviously, Breen, we had a conversation about this. You felt like, DC and Marvel were trying to move on without you. They didn't really appreciate, the 45 years that you put into collecting comics, reading, spreading the message out.
Well, I would say that, Marvel has absolutely thrown me and people like me under the bus. DC, I bang on some of their creative decisions, but at least, the Bendis decision, for, as much as I disagree with it, those were comic book related moves that they made, price point increase notwithstanding. But, he just, he came in, thought he was giving us the, version of Superman, and it just failed. But it was a comic book failure as opposed to a, ideological, decision, which seems to drive Marvel's bus. That's why, I still buy about 10 DC titles a month. At Marvel, I kind of, buy Daredevil, like every other issue, because I forget that I'm buying that one Marvel. But if DC, goes in a different direction that is more just like, IP driven, we're going to show the characters. Something I heard about 3 or 4 years ago that I've never forgotten was when, someone said, with 5 years from now, the Hulk is going to be Shrek with less body fat.
Yeah.
If DC goes in that direction, then I don't see any reason to, continue to even buy DC. I mean, Marvel's gone as far as I'm concerned. It's not coming back. I'm holding on to DC, but, I said, but I could see that changing too if, this new DC goes in a different direction.
How many titles did you lose when they during all these cancelings?
I just won.
Just Hawkman?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't reading Teen Titans?
No,
I was not like new Teen Titans from the 80s?
I did, but again, if I missed the boat on that, I can always go back and get those, except for whichever one introduced the Batman Who Laughs. But to me, they were you get to a certain point, like I said, unfortunately, one of the things about being old AF is eventually it gets tougher to break in new characters. And that's the new Teen Titans were a bunch of characters I didn't know anything about because I wasn't even reading DC when Rebirth started. So it was, and I just figured, I just don't know if I don't know if that'd be the right book for me. Turns out I might have been wrong.
Oh yeah, Dan Abnett's Teen Titans was like.
Now it's a moot point.
Well, I guess his Dan Abnett's Titans was also really good, but the Teen Titans, I think Ben Percy might have been writing Teen Titans first, and then Adam Glasses. I think you would like it. It feels like the 80s, the new Teen Titans team. There's kind of a fill-in for each one of them.
And I really liked Titans because that was giving me those characters updated from the 80s. And hell, that was about the first book DC got rid of.
Okay, so Tevye is saying he's learned that Suicide Squad isn't canceled. Is that true, Yule?
Well, I only know when I see it reported or if it's not on my order form anymore. And I know I placed an order for a recent one, so I'm not sure if that's the last one. They might continue it for a little bit longer for a storyline, related. But
according to the solicitation in November, that's the final issue.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
That's an 11-issue miniseries.
I got to get into that and check it out.
I do want to say to Isaladog, I think he's in Spain. If you're wanting X-Men content, Doc and I already recorded This Week in X-Men. It'll be dropping tomorrow morning. You're going to be excited. It's a good issue. Good episode.
Good episode, yeah. And additionally, I just posted my daily why in the hell isn't Marvel hiring Brett Booth to draw the flagship X-Men post on Twitter. So you can go there and retweet it.
That's why.
Yeah. Did you enjoy this issue's Boom Chicka Wow Wow moment, Doc?
Are you talking about in X-Force?
Or was it X-Force? Yeah, it was X-Men or X-Force. They had their there's freaky shit going on in Krakoa moment.
Is this that X-Men Empire issue? Because I did not read that.
Oh God.
I'm not reading any of the X-Men Empire because I'm not reading any of it. Empire.
Yeah.
If it was in that, then no.
Okay.
All right,
yeah,
Tyler, I gotta ask
it's gonna be a lot of it.
Do you believe that Suicide Squad was always meant to be an 11-issue maxi series?
11.
Yeah. No, of course not. But
that's what
I don't buy that. Everything is meant to be a mini series when it gets canceled and it's an unlimited series now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're running out of steam in number 8. Okay, this has been a 9-issue maxi series. Yeah. And no. that's DC's excuse, Marvel's excuse too, for that matter. For something that,
I'm sorry, Tevye, it's called spin. You want to put a big spin on it so it doesn't sound as bad as that you're abandoning titles after 11 issues, which is not a DC thing to do. Like you was talking about earlier, that is a very Marvel move.
Yeah, it is.
But it does feel like DC at the end of Dark Knight's Death Metal. Breen, do you agree with me that they're doing like a reboot? It might not be exactly rebirth. They might not brand it like that, but it feels like they're resetting all the titles. Flash is getting a new creative team. We're getting all new or Red Hood's being canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Aquaman.
Apparently, somebody
going away. Suicide Squad. We're getting a lot of these things closing down. It feels like they're going to change the creative teams and launch them out of death metal.
Somebody just said in the chat that Red Hood was supposed to be done at 50, and then they just announced solicited issue 51 with a new creative team.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good time for people to start picking up the books for the first time, or if they've been away for a while, maybe. If they do have an honest to God, and I'm very doubtful about this, an honest to God change of heart, and really want to push these books into the right direction and pick up readers that have dropped off, then this will be the time to do it. But how many times you get smacked in the nose with a newspaper and keep coming back? But if you are so inclined, I think that it might be a good opportunity.
Does anyone else feel like we're getting a reboot? It feels like it to me.
I think so. Soft boot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels like this was supposed to have happened a while ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen like Generation 5, but now that's
all right, that was the other part of it, but yeah, dark death metal, and then obviously Doomsday Clock. It felt like something was going to happen, and it was like all that length of time, and it just never happened. And now here we are again with the delays and, you know, cancelings. Yeah, it feels like a reboot. But in what way? Is it in the universe? Is it in the story style that they're going to be presenting to us?
It feels like creative teams, and whatever happens at death metal is going to change the multiverse.
Yeah, I think we're going to get someday. This is what's going to happen. It's just like any kind of Superman story can be told, and it really doesn't matter continuity wise. And it might not be tomorrow.
Silver Age again.
Well, yeah, but it could be at any time. So if you were a fan of Superman when he was married to Lois Lane without a kid, we got those stories, you know, potentially for you also. And I mean, that would be my vision of a comic book, a shared universe, like, you know, DC's IP property is like, people don't necessarily care about one major big story that connects the universe as much as they just care about the kind of version of that character that they like. And I feel that we are going to be starting to get that someday. And especially if things go digitally, it really doesn't matter because they're not trying to sell a company line of comic books. They're just trying to sell these comic books to you. And, you know, you get that collected, and it's a nice, this is like John Byrne, right after he left Superman, this is what would have happened, you know, or right after Louis Simonson, or after the death of Superman. These are the stories. And it could be that for any character all the time now. You know, you can have your bisexual Peter Parker because it doesn't matter anymore to the whole story. You know, that's what I kind of envision comic books going in the future. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like you can't hang your hat on anything anymore. So the only thing you can is the thing that you like. And I don't know. I think that's what companies might actually be doing in the future.
So it's an X-Men 92 world going forward.
Kind of like that. Yeah, exactly.
God, that's a great way to finally put the entire comic industry out of its misery.
Wait a second, but you would get blue and gold X-Men teams again, and you know there are people that like that, you know, and you don't have all the Krakoa stuff that's going on. And
for one issue, and then
for one issue, or for the
one series or maxi series.
Think about like Byrne did X-Men: The Hidden Years, which were, I can't remember exactly. It was like after the old team went away, I think. Anyway,
66.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it was all those issues when they went.
Doc did more X-Men in the Outback universe.
Honestly, they went through that already. I'm good with them continuing forward.
But all right,
on a rainbow, sir.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I think there are people out there for that. And I think there's probably more of them than you're going to get with new readers with your shared universe.
They just released those as graphic novels just to begin with.
But you're not going to make enough money. You're not going to. You're cannibalizing the audience.
I think that's where comics are going. We're just cannibalizing it. We're cannibalizing the IPs.
My point is, they're not going to be able to sell enough to justify the cost, like even the production. Because there's only going to be so you're going to start getting into everybody can have every version of every character that they like. Okay, who's going to fucking make it?
Well, I mean,
if you want to do it for free, that's cool.
Well, what I'm saying is the companies will do that. You know, all right. How about this? You're gonna have 20 Batman books anyway, right? They don't all need to be in continuity. In fact, more often than not, they're not. So if I could have, you know, a Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan style Batman from the 90s again and read that. Legends of the Dark Knight did it, where it'd be like, oh, this is a story from Batman back in the 60s. Oh, this is a story of Batman back in the 70s. I'm just saying it's going to be more of that type of stuff.
Too much choice to the reader is actually bad. And that's what you're suggesting.
Well, I'm saying the companies are going to do that.
I've ever sure, Doc, but we got to start wrapping this up. So I do want to wrap it up on somewhat of a high note here. Breen, I know that you are a big fan of Hawkman like I am. Robert Venditti is my favorite comic book writer. We know that he quit writing Justice League because he got offered his dream assignment. It's not going to be Superman because that's a Bendis book. He's obviously not writing Batman. It's certainly not Justice League. What do you think Robert Venditti's dream assignment, or what would your dream assignment that doesn't include those titles be for Robert Venditti?
Well, anybody that read Hawkman 26 got that on the last page.
Well,
that's a Justice Society book written by Venditti with the Hawks figuring prominently, and then all is forgiven for the axe that fell on it yesterday.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the artist? Eddie Barrows?
I would take the guy they've got on there now. I would take Eddie Barrows. I would,
Alex Ross covers.
Bring Brian Hitch back. Heck, any of them. But that would be.
I think he's just doing a miniseries of his own. Oh wait, no, that's a one shot with Dark Knight's Death Metal. My bad. Never mind.
But that would be, then
could you imagine
all is right with the world if that happens.
Could you imagine if they did a Kingdom Come type situation with Justice Society of America, of painted artwork with beautiful Alex Ross painted artwork in a prestige format, and then that would be just the most stunning thing ever. It would sell like nobody would believe.
Man, that could bring Mark Waid back in the DC universe.
No, just leave him. Let Venditti write it.
Waid back. We're trying to get the team back together.
No, fuck Waid.
Well, Bob Harras is gone. He's no longer guarding the door.
But just the treatment like that, I'm talking about just the art treatment like that with Justice Society of America with the Hawks, that would be like, oh man, damn.
There you go. That's what you want. What do you want, Yule? What's your dream project for Venditti? What do you think he should do? I
haven't been reading the last Hawkmans lately. I read like the first 12, and I like that series quite a bit. And so I didn't know about the Justice Society. That would be excellent. And that's kind of another thing I've been thinking about. Like I've been using Marvel's old titles when I talk about this, but could easily be DC, and so I'll use them. You have a JSA, and you have all the characters. So you have your Hawkman and Stargirl and all the other ones that you want to throw in there. It doesn't matter. Wildcat, and then you have your Justice League, and then you have your main titles, and then start doing like you used to do. Have Brave and the Bold. Have DC Comics Presents. This is how you get your other characters and other IPs out there without having to sacrifice another Superman title or another Batman title. You can have Batman team up. Same thing with Marvel. You gotta have Marvel team up again. You have to have Marvel 2-in-1. It doesn't have to be the Thing. You just have to do it like it used to be done so that you can get those characters out there. And
bring back House of Mystery and put your Vertigo people in it.
Yes, bring back House of Mystery. Bring back Tales to Astonish for Marvel. And instead of having a Captain America book that doesn't sell very well, have a Captain America and Iron Man book that can be put together. And again, go back to monthly, and even in some cases, go back to bi-monthly and quarterly schedules.
Yep.
These are things that are events without being events that people can look forward to. And you're not putting a ton of comic books out there, but you're putting a lot of information out there. And I would like to see that happen again in comic books. Do JSA.
Do the House of Mystery with the Vertigo characters.
Oh, that would be so cool.
The Justice League Dark in House of Mystery. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm getting chills in my arm thinking about this.
Yeah,
you could have like a four story 48-page book coming out monthly or bi-monthly, charge $4.99 for it, and it would absolutely destroy everything out there.
You have a Hellblazer, a Swamp Thing, a Justice League Dark, and a Zatanna story in it. And then you just rotate it. You could have a Zatara story because it doesn't matter again about continuity. In my world.
And then a Batman story every once in a while. Something dark.
Essentially, though, you're arguing for anthologies that aren't really anthologies, and Americans don't buy anthologies.
Well, new content, new stories.
Doc is taking us out on a down note. I want to say thank you all very much. Salamat Po, and I'm out.